candidate tonight. I'm not a resident of Mount I am not voting for anybody. And we're going to have each candidate make an opening statement for 5 minutes. I think it's allotted. If somebody wishes to keep a timer on them to make sure they don't go over, feel free to do that. Let me know when they go over. They have to go over. I would ask that if, once we get into the questions, after they give their opening statements, if you have questions, we'll open up the floor because you folks are the ones that are going to vote. If you have areas of concern, if you want to ask a question, please stand up, state your name. I'm guessing people know each other, but just in case, I don't know any of them. But state your name and then ask your question. If you want to be directed to a certain candidate, please direct it to a certain candidate. If you want them all to answer, then say, hey, this is for all of you guys up here, and we'll be sure that they each get a proper question. Okay? So I'm going to start at the far end. I'd like to have the candidates introduce themselves and make their statement.
My name is Scott Ward, live in Oxford, you all know. Raised in Oxford since 1977. Ended up buying my house from my parents 10 years ago, 52 years old. Just here to try to help guide the town in the direction we all want it to go. Try to make it so our kids want to come back here when they grow up and go to college, they want to come back. That's pretty much why I'm here and who I am.
My name's Ernie. Also, obviously, a resident of Oxford. Lived here since I was 7 years old. My family moved from Harrison. I grew up here, playing ball and basketball and baseball, everything Pismo, all the stuff that kids do, riding bikes and trails and stuff like that. I grew up over on Independence Lane in Oxford, so kind of close to town. And, worked at Ames as one of my first jobs. It's just been it's been fun growing up here and seeing the changes. And now I left for 2 years to go to college. Other than those 2 years, I've been a resident here my whole life. Obviously raised our family here. Our kids are growing up now. Brought them through the rec system, playing baseball and basketball and all the stuff as well. And, doing a lot of events here at the rec center. Why they were doing that, I was actually on the rec committee as well. Helped head that and tried to be there to assist at events and stuff. I'm here kind of similar to what Scott said, right? Trying to keep this town going and trying to be responsible with our spending. I'll be honest, the reason I'm here today is because I was irritated about our tax bills last year when everything happened. And instead of being the guy that kind of complains about it, I decided to get up and try and do something about it. Last year, I joined the budget committee. I went through that process this year. And I will tell you right now, if you want to learn about taxes and where our money's coming from, the budget committee is awesome. That was such a fun experience for me. I love going through that and just trying to understand things. I am a business owner here. I have a business here on 26. We do the sunrooms and the screen rooms. And I find that stuff fascinating. And I know there's a couple guys here I can see that were on the budget committee as well. And it was a joy to go through things and learn and understand where our money's going. And whether you support it or you disagree, it's okay. I can agree to disagree with people, no problem at all. But I certainly am an advocate for lowering our taxes and not wasting money. All right? So that's what I got.
Hi, I'm Sharon Jackson. This is the end of my 6 years as a on the Board of Selectmen. I have been in municipal government now for over 25 years. I've been town manager for 15 years. I'm currently the town manager in Bethel. I have been the manager there for the past year and a half. After coming out of retirement in 2019, I was the town manager in Freiburg for 10 years before I retired. I was the town manager in the town of Paris for almost 5 years. I started my municipal career in Oxford as the finance director there. I started the Oxford Baseball Softball Association with Pam Lovely and Gary Smith in the mid-90s, and very proud of that. This building is part of what we did at that time, and bringing all of the rec fields and all of the recreation programs up to where they were until it was taken over by others in the early 2005 year. I have totally enjoyed working in municipal government. You really have to enjoy it. I love the budget process. I enjoy working for the people. I think it's important to work for all of our constituents. We can't always vote the way everyone wants because we have to vote the way that it's going to be the best for Oxford, and that's what we try to do. I've been a selectman for 6 years. I know what it's like to wear the hat of a selectman and a town manager. One of the main roles of a select board member is to hire the town manager. I was also the interim town manager here in Oxford on 2 separate occasions while they hired someone there. I'm here because I want to continue running. I want to continue serving the people of Oxford, and I want to continue doing what the residents here want. Thank you.
Evening, my name is Caldy Jackson, young Caldy, little Caldy. I've been a resident of this town ever since I was born back in 1994. Moved away for college and a couple of years in Lewiston, but always wanted to come back. It's a great community, very focused on, everybody's an individual, but at the same time, we're one community. We stand as one community. It's really shaped the person I am, and I was so fortunate to be able to buy our home right down the street. And I can have my daughter grow up the same way I did, with family close and residents that act like family. It's fantastic. Running, I think it's time that we have a little bit younger voice on the board and see things a little bit different. I think town's going in a great direction. There's continuous success throughout, from the casino to, being able to supply so many different job opportunities and different opportunities in general. Just hoping to expand on that and help the taxpayers of Oxford, and always put the taxpayers of Oxford and the town of Oxford first. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you everybody for being here, taking your time, investing your time to hear what we have to say. I am the black sheep of this crowd because I'm not from here. My name is Phil Richardson. My wife and I live on the Station Road. We've raised 3 children here. Our youngest is about to graduate high school this year. So that kind of freed up some time. We're not going to go into high school sports, stuff like that. So as many of you have asked me, many board members, select board members, and you as residents asked me to throw my hat in the ring here. So I did. Here I am. I'm a husband. I'm a dad. I'm a believer. I'm a United States Marine. I'm a proud resident of this community. The Marine Corps has a saying. It says improvise, adapt, and overcome. My wife and I have leaned on that as we've grown our business here that we started over 16 years ago. We've leaned on that to grow a business here in this community when it wasn't necessarily the easiest thing to do 16 years ago. We've grown roots here. We moved to Station Road into my wife's grandparents' house. So we lived with my wife's grandparents for almost 10 years. And I can tell you that's a humbling experience. But it's what we had to do to create opportunity. My wife's from here. We came back here because we saw the opportunity. In 20 years since I've been here, I feel like in the last 5 to 8, I've seen a fair amount of change. And change can be good, but it's not always good. And so what I fear is it's going to change and remove that opportunity for a young couple that's just getting married and to raise their family here and have an opportunity to start and grow a business here in the Oxford, town of Oxford, but just the Oxford Hills. I see it transition taking place, and I think it's not time to panic. I don't think we're in a panic mode, but I think we need to make some adjustments to the course to get this ship headed back in that direction where we have opportunity to raise your children like we did, where their mom and dad can go to sporting events, not necessarily have to have a full-time job, but can maybe stay home, be the parent that goes, for a school field trip, take them to the beach, take them hiking, do snowshoeing, all the stuff that we want to live here and endure Maine winter for. Opportunity to start a business like we did, employ local residents. Some of them are here. We've had a lot of high school kids, college kids, home on break. Just teaching them core values, right? But if they don't come back, they don't want to come back here, they don't want to be here. We don't have that. businesses don't have that, we can't thrive, we can't survive. Just recently, a friend of mine was on social media when I announced my candidacy, and he said some really nice things, and I really appreciate that. He's a officer in the United States Army, he's a pilot, and he messaged me after, and he's excited I was doing this, and expressed this confidence. And then we went into a conversation. We talked about him coming back. He's about to retire. I think he's got 2 or 3 years left. He's going to retire, and he wants to come back here. He wants to invest in this area. And he still sees that opportunity that I'm talking about, that Jess and I saw 20 years ago. I think that's exciting and encouraging. But it's not just opportunity for, young parents or middle-aged parents that kids are growing up. It's opportunity for the seniors, right? Like, if the tax rate keeps doing what it is trending to do, we're gonna have problems. I've met with people, I've talked to people, I've been out, putting signs out. People that have a single wide trailer that are just barely getting by. You would think, what is $25 a week? Right? Their tax bill went up $25. What's the big deal about that? What's the big deal to them? It's a big deal for Jess and I. Yes, we have a little bit of land. We're fortunate. We have a big farmhouse, right? We have to make sacrifices. You as residents have to make sacrifices. So I think it's time to just kind of get reorganized, regroup, and see what sacrifices we need to make as a town and what we're investing in. Make sure we're investing in the right stuff that is an asset, not a liability. Everything can either be an asset or a liability. And I think I have, as a business owner, somebody who grew a business, I think I had that ability to help decipher some of that and just add value to purchasing what we purchase, when we hire, looking at employees, just another fresh set of eyes to look at that and help in this long race that we take as a small town government. Thank you.
All right, so questions from, I have a list of questions, but I'm going to go questions from you folks, because I'm supposed to. Who has questions for the candidates? Yes, sir.
How many of you work for different municipalities, and how long have you done that? That's just for the whole board.
What's the question addressed to everyone? Have you worked for other municipalities, and how long have you done that? Start on this end of the table, Mr. Richardson?
Yep. So actually, I did a small stint where I worked for a Department of Public Works in Massachusetts. Probably a little over a year. I can tell you I wasn't cut out for that. Probably had a little bit too much energy. Other than that, I've served on your rec board here, served on the Austin Hills Christian Academy school board, and volunteered for many different events throughout the community, and been involved with the inner workings of the community.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson?
I've not worked for a municipality at all. I've done volunteer work throughout the community, but never received a paycheck or credit hours or anything with the municipality.
Ms. Jackson?
Over 25 years in 4 different municipalities, first starting in Oxford as the finance director here. Before I started as finance director, I was chair of the rec committee for almost 10 years. I was part of the budget committee here. I worked here for almost 8 years. I worked in Paris as town manager for almost 5 years. I was the town manager in Freiburg for 10 years before I retired. Now I am the town manager in Bethel. I've been there for a year and a half. I also served as the Oxford's representative on the Oxford school board for 8.5 years. I was vice chair for the last 2 I was there. I was the budget committee chair for 6 years while I was on the school board. So that's my involvement over 25 years in municipalities.
Can everybody hear in the back? Mr. Pitts?
So I've actually worked for, my father actually started our business over here, the Sunroom and Screen Room Place. And I had 2 years off from college. I worked for Marriott Hotels. And I came back from the family business, and I've worked there ever since. The only involvement I've had with any municipality is being on the rec committee for 3 or 4 years, back when my son was involved, and this was my first year being on the budget committee this year, and that's it.
Mr. Ward?
My involvement with the Oxford municipal side was I worked for the PD for a little over a year back in the 90s.
Next question. Yeah, back.
Good. I have a question about something that happened in the past, and I want to see what you do about it in the future. I had two environmental associations come to me and tell me that they had offered the town of Oxford thousands of dollars, and Oxford turned it down. This was within the last few years. And I was wondering if it got turned down, why the people that were on the board turned it down. And if we were on the board, would you take the money? It was from CB, which is the Environmental Association, and TLEA.
The question relates to an offer from environmental
Yes, they got
groups
grants.
that made
and
an
they were
offer
offering
to the town, it was turned down. Would you take the money? What would you do?
Well, I want to know the people that were on the board, why they didn't take it.
Was that directed to Ms. Jackson?
It's directed to anybody that on the board, and the people that might get elected if they did take it.
So why don't we say Ms. Jackson for last? Let's start.
I would answer, I guess, I would have to have a lot more facts before I could say, can I take it or can I not? Because I don't know what they're offering the money for, but I think as with 5 select people on the board, reviewing all of the facts would be a must, and then having more than 3 vote on it would be the only way we would get that answer. I wish I had a better answer, but to clarify, we need a lot more facts on what they offered or why they offered
Well, I
it.
was told by TLEA that there were no, and not TLEA, CB, there were no strings attached, nothing. They gave me money, they were money.
Yeah, again, I would have to, I was always taught if it seems too good to be true, it probably is, but I don't have any facts, so I can't answer that part of it, but I would want to review everything before I made a decision on it.
Mr. Fitz?
So can I ask what the purpose was of them coming to you and saying, like, what was their intent behind it?
They know that I'm not there.
Yeah.
They're involved with what we're looking for.
Okay.
I'm involved with TLEA now because I live in the
Sure.
and CB because I want to do it.
Okay, so, but what were they looking for? Was there an issue that they're, like, what were they looking for?
They wanted to know why Oxford took the money. It was free money, it was just their money that they were giving.
But did Oxford have a reason to take the money?
I have no idea.
Well, and neither do I, so it's hard for me to answer,
They
right?
couldn't understand why Oxford didn't take the money.
Right.
They were like confused why Oxford didn't take the money.
I don't know enough about the situation, and if someone just comes to me and says, hey, here's a plate of money, I'm gonna ask why, right? I mean, I can't sit here and say, I would say, yes, I'm gonna take it, and not have any reason to take it.
But I don't think they were doing business that it wasn't taken.
Yeah, I weren't on the board, so I can't answer it. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the situation.
So let's jump to Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson, what would be your answer?
I would have to agree. I would need to know exactly what the money came from, the grants that they were, you just don't get grant money and give it away. So you have to apply for them. The government has to kind of, I would ask quite a few questions, make sure that, town's lawyer is aware of these funds that are going to be donated. If there's no strings attached, who doesn't like free money from a grant? But at the same time, there's always something there that doesn't sound always up to snuff.
Well, TLEA did a survey this year, watershed survey this year, now it's involved in that, and they are getting huge amounts of money to put in larger culverts, to improve conditions on roads near the lake and everything. And so if they were going to offer us that money, I was told that we would take it because I live on the lake house here, and I know that there's a lot of problems.
Of course, it just, you would have to check in with the town, because I'm assuming the road commissioner And they would have to allocate that funds, that they just couldn't put in the general account. You'd have to allocate those funds, and I believe that would take, you would have to have the board's approval. And like I said, free money is free money, but at the same time, if it's grant money, it must be allocated for something. And then coming down the road, if the town of Oxford took it, what's the implications of which we didn't use that money towards roads or what that was allocated for? The town could be liable, I would think. But if the town was going to receive that money, there would have to be quite a bit more information to go on that, in my opinion.
Mr. Richardson?
Yeah, I take the free money. Look, yeah, there's a, prime segue for me to say, I'm a hard worker. I don't know the situations behind it. I would work tirelessly to find out all the situations behind it. I am shoreline certified to work within the restricted areas, and, the setbacks of the water. I'm sure it was, earmarked or designated for something. It was, like you're saying, they probably wanted to do some shoulder work or culvert work or some drainage work or whatnot. And, it's a great question, and it is frustrating to hear that, right, that we didn't, as a town, didn't accept free money. I'm sure Sharon can shed some light on that, because if it was that easy, I'm sure, as a town, we would take that and make the improvements that they're looking for us to make. And that is definitely something that we as a community need to seek more of and embrace. And there's no such thing, first of all, as free money, right? A grant isn't free. The college tuition, my daughter just graduated from CM. I encouraged her to go, but it wasn't free. She's a taxpayer. She's paying for it, right? So we should be seeking those grants. We should be somehow, and it's not always that easy to match something like that if that's the requirement, but it's definitely, an opportunity to rectify some of these issues that we have near our waterways.
Ms. Jackson?
I would answer that by saying I'm not aware of what you're talking about, Donna. All grants come with requirements. In order to accept grants, they can, depending on the type of grant it is, it either requires select board, and in some cases, town meeting voter approval. So I don't know the situation you're talking about. If a grant were offered to the town, it would be brought to the town manager, who would then bring it to the board of selectmen to discuss all of the requirements, what it's for, and whether or not it's something that we should or should not consider. But I'm not aware what you're talking about. If you have a question like that, I think that if you would first start with the town manager to find out if anything like that had been brought to the current town manager.
I know, I've read 5 years in Oakfield, and Oakfield has wetland grants for CD, and the first year they got $47,000. Second year they got $36,000, and this year they plan on getting $100,000. And
So-
they're doing all kinds of, they're putting roofs on buildings, they're putting a heating system for the fire station. They've done all kinds of, it's not like you just have to work on the lake, or you just have to, they've done all kinds of improvements in the town for that money.
As a general rule, all grants have requirements that the grant funds have to be used for specific purposes. But I would start with the town manager to find out if he can speak directly to what you're talking about.
Thank you.
Sarah?
Yes.
Yeah, because you brought more information out as things went by as far as what money could be done. I can assure you right now, as many people I've talked to about issues that they have going on in town, right now, the number 2 issue I'm finding out is people are sick of the roads in this town, and they want things done. So I can assure you, if I'm voted in, if anybody ever come to us as a select board or to our town manager to pass on that money was being allocated to our roads or to a heating system, I guarantee I'd be an advocate for it. Okay, but I just wanted to chime in because that wasn't revealed when I had a chance to speak, so.
Any other questions from here? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I know that we've got challenges. Stand up so you can hear me. I know that we're facing challenges, the next 5 to 10 years, what direction is our town going to head? But I'd like to hear from each of you, what are our, let's say, in your opinion, top 2 challenges that this town is facing, and how or what steps would you take to meet, rectify, direct, and address the challenges?
Thank you. So the question is, what do you see as the biggest top two challenges? Thank you very much. That was one of my questions. So why don't we start this time with Mr. Jackson?
I believe, in my opinion, that my first challenge, or the challenge I see as the biggest challenge, is the price of everything. You know, taxes go up, naturally, taxes will never go down, but along with your taxes going up, so does the cost of living, so does, you know, your car insurance, house insurance, everything goes skyrocket. We can't help that on a global scale, but we definitely can help that on a local scale. You know, I believe the budget this year is within what it was last year, so it shouldn't be a huge increase, but at the same time, it's still a slight increase on top of inflation being what it is. And it's hard to gather those different variables because we can't control what the nations do or what other nations have plans. But I think if we keep our eye on the prize in town of Oxford by limiting spending, limiting the rate of which we can spend money, and maybe allocate different funds towards different areas, it would be helpful. The second challenge, definitely, I gotta say, road maintenance. You go down Grand Valley Road, and it's pretty rough all the way across there. You go up East Oxford Road, you go really anywhere in town. It's not the town's fault. The roads are just deteriorating. It's hard winters and lots of rain. But I really don't know how we would address that other than get more community funding from the government through grants or take some of those allocated funds that we have, spend it somewhere else, or want to spend somewhere else and focus on the infrastructure and roads.
Mr. Richardson?
Yeah, thank you, Connie. Taxes, right? I mean, I've been doing this for, I don't know, a month and a half, 2 months, this campaigning thing, and trying to be a politician, I guess, and taxes are an issue, right? And so, which then creates taxes being one, housing being another for young couples and older couples. You know, they're directly related. The taxes are related to your housing prices too, right? So house values go up, taxes go up, it becomes tough to afford, a home. How do you slow down rising taxes? I mean, somebody said that to me, and I've heard that before. Taxes never go down. Man, I love a challenge. Like, what do you mean they can't go down? Why not, right? So I know I have a lot to learn. I mean, I'm probably way overzealous or whatever, but I do believe that the town's in a good place as far as, from what I can see and what I've evaluated. We just take this building, it's not run down, it's not falling in on itself. The heat's on, the light's on. Like, if we have a good infrastructure, we have a good equipment with the highway department, with the police department, the fire department, down at the transfer station. Like, I feel like things are in pretty good shape. So we need to take those things that we have. The sewer line, which a lot of negative about, is probably a liability right now. How do we turn it into a positive? How do we make it into something? How do we turn that into something that creates us generates an income for the town instead of costing us an income? And that's how we're going to moderate we never make this promise, but I like to see taxes go down, right? So that's how we're going to do it. We have to look at what we have, the assets we have, and utilize them to the max. Take the liabilities we have and try to turn them into assets the best we can, or get rid of them. And I think doing that will moderate the tax rate, which will help with the housing. And then I think there's again, I love the private sector. They just did a senior celebration fundraiser on the radio, where people called in and radiothon, and they raised money for this senior celebration, and they raised an astronomical amount of money. The private sector, this community, this town in particular, there's givers here. So as we look at different opportunities, there's people who want to invest here into senior housing, into affordable housing. We're going to have to give a little too. I'm not saying monetary. I'm not saying as a town we have to give up tax money, but we have to give them some incentives and open our arms and open the dialogue and build relationships with them and try to get them to come on board and invest in this town to moderate all that.
probably the number one is keeping the taxes to a minimum and not increasing. That has to be balanced with the constant maintenance to the roads, the infrastructure, the buildings, the equipment, vehicles. Those are all expensive items in the budget, and the budget keeps rising. We have to try to look for means of revenues to try to offset that. We just recently had a sewer project where we offered several $1,000s in grant funds to encourage individuals to hook up to the sewer to help them out. Increasing our sewer revenue will help keep our expenses down in our budget. But if you're trying to find a balance for all of the needs that we have in the budget and keeping the mill rate down.
And with taxes are the two biggest challenges, one's taxes, and the other two are the sewer.
The sewer, finding more users on the sewer to increase revenue.
Jumping to what?
Can you repeat the question? I'm confused on what was said and what I thought I heard you say. I just want to make sure I answer you properly.
So what I was asking is, what are the top two challenges that you're currently facing our town? And what steps would you take to try to rectify or address the challenges that you're facing?
Everybody's kind of saying the same things. I'm looking at it a little bit different on the challenge. If we make the town more inviting, it brings in more business. More business means we have more people paying taxes, which should help disperse the tax rate as we bring in more business, which will also help keep more people in the town working, is the way I look at it. If they have to leave and go somewhere else, they're going somewhere else, they like somewhere else, they stay somewhere else. It's kind of like going to Walmart. If Walmart didn't have anything, you'd buy it 7 different places, but Walmart's smart, put it all in one place, so you stay there. If we can have that same mentality with the town by fixing the roads and maintaining a tax rate, we all know taxes are taxes. We all hate them, they all suck. But if we can keep them maintained to a level we can afford them, we get by with that because it's a norm. So I guess my biggest challenge would be, let's grow the town, invite more businesses in to help with the tax rate, which will also give us enough money to disperse, because as my aunt sitting in front of me, we've always joked up on the hill that we're on the wrong side of the tracks for the road to be taken care of. Phil's right on the line, so he kind of knows what we're talking about, but the road, after having surgery this winter and driving to my house every day, we definitely need to work on our road structure. So that's how I would answer that.
Yeah, so I think the two biggest challenges of the town right now, not only my own opinion, but also talking to many residents, is taxes, right? That's the number one thing people are upset about in this town. And I'm gonna tell you right now, no matter which two of us in the current selectmen and future selectmen happens, if us as residents and people don't get involved and you don't know what's going on, budget committees are open, all the meetings are open to the public, the selectmen meetings to the public. If we don't voice our say, nothing's gonna change. Because I'm gonna tell you right now that if there's a question coming in front of me right now for a $200,000 purchase, none of you guys are here except maybe 3 or 4 of you, it's easy just to make a decision and go with the flow, right? If we show up and we have 50, 60, 70 more people, you're gonna think twice before you just throw your hand up and say yes. Okay, that's the truth. It's harder to make an honest decision. Excuse me. You're going to make a more honest decision instead of just go with the flow when you have 50, 100, or more people staring you in the face. Okay, so I think as residents, we need to get involved, and I think that is a challenge. Okay, so taxes. Being on the budget committee, like I had mentioned this year, I missed the first meeting because we were on vacation. Okay, and when I got there at the next meeting, we started going down through some stuff. And as a current business owner, I really have to separate what I think is wants and needs. And I walked away from the first meeting writing things down that I was at almost $500,000 of stuff that I feel this town could do without right now. Because of the taxes and the burden it's putting on people, we could do without. But you know what? If we don't show up to vote and we don't go up and express our opinion, it's gonna get passed through. And we're gonna be here come next June, July, whatever, when the mill rate gets set, and we're all gonna be looking at each other all pissed off still, right? So we gotta do something about it, and we need to make sure that our needs and wants, our checks and balances, especially during this time, okay? So tax burden and then growth in the roads, which they kind of go to bit together, right? Because as we grow, there's gonna be more wheels on the roads, okay? So I do think this town, to help our tax base, we do have to look at ways to grow, you know, like a couple of us have mentioned, or most of us have mentioned. I'll just give you a specific. I think right now, the town of Oxford should not be in the real estate business. Is it good to have a few assets here and there? Absolutely. But we've got a old fire station being used for storage up in Oxford right now that's just sitting there for storage. That would be a great sale to get rid of or do something with instead of just being a stagnant asset and help bring that money in to fund something else. Maybe we need a piece of equipment or something. We could flip that around and take that money off the tax burden instead of a building just sitting there as storage with no money coming in, no tax money coming in. We got a beautiful piece of property over here. I believe right beside Twin Town Homes is like 40 acres. That could be subdivided. We could sell that for a pretty good chunk of money right now. Or if we subdivide it, put a development in for a business park, similar to like what they did on Park Street, except I would hook that up to the town septic, you know, because that would be a good feature for people to, you know, incentivize them to come have town utilities in that development. That would give us more opportunity to grow. It would broaden our tax base instead of the town just sitting on a piece of property letting it rot away. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't have some assets, but we certainly don't need as many as we have right now. That's how I feel. But like I said, as development goes, you know, and more wheels on the road, it's going to affect our road. So, you know, it's going to be a slow, moderate growth. I don't think any of us, I don't believe, wants this town to implode and be Westbrook overnight, right? But I think there's certain steps we can do to help generate more revenue coming in to help ease the burden on all of us.
Thank you. More questions?
Good question for Sharon. Can you tell me how much money was spent at the transfer station in the last 2 years? And why?
Could you speak up?
Could you tell me how much money was spent at the transfer station in the last 2 years and why?
So there was a bathroom put in the recycling building that was supposed to have been put in 20 years ago, and it just got put in now. The baler was replaced after 30 years. It was not functioning, it was unsafe, and it had to be replaced. It's been in the budget and a 10-year plan for several years. That was replaced this year. The windows of the recycling building were rotted off, and all of the weatherization was going inside. Those were finally replaced this year. That was approximately $7,000. A loader was replaced at the transfer station. It's a 20-year-old loader that was passed down from the highway department to the transfer station and required several $1,000s of maintenance. And so that was replaced. There was a bathroom put in at the actual transfer station. Those are the major items that were done.
So you mentioned 7,000, and then we've got several thousand. What was their total amount for all those projects?
The baler was $160,000. I'm saying I'm using approximate totals. That was approximately $160,000 baler that was replaced. We bail all the cardboard there, and it after 30 years, it just got functioning safely and properly.
And the bathroom was how much?
I'm gonna say probably between 10 and 15,000. That was done in the past year.
Any other specifics that you?
In the loader?
The loader, approximately $150,000.
And how many of those items were brought to the town with loader?
They were budgeted. Some of them were in the budget last year. Not all capital projects are brought to the town meeting to vote on. Some are purchased with undesignated fund balance, which the town has very healthy undesignated fund balance, and some are brought to the town meeting to vote. Those decisions are made by the selectmen and the budget committee as to which ones will be voted on at town meeting and which ones will come out of the undesignated fund balance. And there is approximately $1 million every year from casino revenues that are put in the undesignated fund balance.
Okay. Sir, in the back, you had a question?
Couple of questions about the transfer station. I've asked for 15 years why the metal hasn't been put out for bid. I'm the local recycler for metal in this town. 15 years I've gone to the town, why isn't it going out to bid? I've been told I don't have enough money to buy it, okay? Hate to say I got a lot of money, I can buy anything I want. Second of all, you just said that you could have repaired a loader for, say, $10,000, but you elected to spend $150,000 for a new loader? My loaders are 30, 40 years old, they still run. Yes, I have to do maintenance, but I don't spend $150,000 in 15 years on them. Can you justify that?
Well, first of all, when you are a municipality and you hire people to work for you, you have to have safe equipment and safe vehicles. And if you put people on equipment and in vehicles that are not safe, then you are responsible.
You have to do that in any business.
responsible, for what happens, and I'm sure you are. So those decisions were made by the Board of Selectmen, and I think they're great decisions.
And what about putting out stuff out for bid?
That you'd have to talk to the town manager about. I don't.
I have for 15 years.
All right, sir, I would ask that, let her finish talking, and then if there's another question, the director's going to turn. This is a question and answer, not a town meeting to debate the budget, but I certainly get the concern. So if you do have a follow-up question for Ms. Jackson. Yes? You're all set?
Well, like I said, I've asked for 15 years, I've been to the board, I've done all that, and nothing happens. And you've been on the board, I've dealt with you many times. You're not the only one. How come it doesn't get done on all the jobs? We pay taxes, we have businesses in this town. We should be able to do business with our town. I'm asking, why don't we?
We go out to bid on major projects.
That's it.
I can't answer specifically why a bid why we haven't gone out for metal. They may have just extended contracts, I don't know that.
Sir, in the back corner,
Yeah,
orange.
the road situation, the roads seem to be the whipping boy here, everybody's complaining about the roads, and I live off from Rabbit Valley, I complain about that road all the time too. But the one section of road that I really gets under my skin is probably from about the Honey Band and down to mainly auto or mainly action, but that's section, that's Route 26, that's a state road, we don't have no say over what happened to that road, do we? It's pretty much a state road.
Is that a
So
question
sometimes I think, well, you get all worked up about the road situation. My point is, when the road is really not our responsibility, that's the state's responsibility. You know what I'm saying? So I think that sometimes the roads, yeah, they're bad, don't get me wrong, nobody wants the potholes. Sometimes you just stop thinking it's the state road or the town road.
So, sir, do you have a question, or are you pointing out that the town has limited, can't have jurisdiction over a state road? Is that what you're trying to point out? Is there a specific question for anybody about that topic?
You know, but in Route 26, like that section, you go, especially,
It's a
it's
state
like
road.
a fog ground.
Town's not
But
responsible for it.
we can complain about that as a town, and most of us use that section of road all the time, but that's more the state's responsibility than the town's responsibility, right? So this,
I think what Ms. Jackson's pointing out is that the Route 26 is a state road, the town doesn't have any responsibility or ability to work on that road, only town-owned roads, is that correct?
That's correct.
Question, yes, ma'am.
Slow down.
Every year,
we ask at town meeting, where's the money going from the casino? Nobody ever seems to tell us where the money's going. My question, I guess, is this $150,000 that they spent at the transfer station and $160,000, where did that money come from? Did it come from the casino?
Is that question directed towards Ms. Jackson?
Yes. I mean, she's the only one that's been on the board.
So, that was paid for from undesignated fund balance, which it's called undesignated fund balance. Years ago, it used to be called the general fund.
Everything like the slush fund.
Yeah, well, it's now it's called the undesignated fund balance. We get approximately $2 million a year from the casino. And we put a lot, at least half of that, $1 million in the undesignated fund balance. When we make purchases from the undesignated fund balance, that's where it comes from. That's where the vote is paid from, and several other things that items have come from that. Others are voted on in town meeting.
My other question is, excuse me, on the sewer. You said that they gave a grant, and they gave different people money to hook on to the sewer. If I was a person that had hooked onto the sewer beforehand, and you now gave 15 people, 25 people, I don't know what you gave, I would be some upset that I didn't get some cut back on my bill that was double what these other people were paying. Because I've never been happy with the sewer anyway, because as far as I was concerned, we should have done what we did, but that's another question.
Is the question, why don't people that bought in earlier get a rebate?
Why don't they get a rebate of some sort? I mean, I would be upset if I say, for example, I paid $5,000 to hook onto the sewer, and now Scott's got it for nothing. That would irritate me as a customer of the sewer department. I mean, I'm just a taxpayer, I'm never gonna see sewer, so it doesn't matter to me.
So is there any plan to provide a rebate for customers who pay in?
No. When the sewer first was started, way back when you remember, there was $250,000 that was raised to put into an account, that was voted on at town meeting, to go into an account for the sewer. That's the money that was used. Some of that money was used by people who wanted to hook up but didn't have money, so the town gave them loans and that they had to pay back. There were approximately 8 maybe in that category, and it was monitored who kept paying and who didn't. There were others, like myself, who did tie into the sewer because we had failing septic systems, so we had to tie in, and we did pay. And then the rest of that money was just sitting there. We were told back years ago, as you may remember, that there were hundreds of people that were going to hook up to the sewer, and that revenue was going to pay for the sewer. That never happened. So what the Board of Selectmen agreed to do was offer that money to anyone for a year for grants to help people who couldn't afford to tie into the sewer. There were approximately 20, maybe a few more than that, who did sign up for the program, and they have sewer systems put in. Now the town generates revenue from that, but it's nowhere near what we need. We need a lot more people to sign in. So we offered back what was raised by the taxpayers to the individuals who paid for that through their taxes. There was no discussion. There was discussion, but anyone who had paid for it, they had paid for it.
Mr. Richardson, you want to weigh in on this issue?
Yes. It's a kind of a sensitive subject, really, wastewater treatment facility. And kind of like you said, it is what it is, right? It's there now. We have it. It's currently, it appears to be a liability. To offer a grant and to offer, a decreased, subscription, to me, isn't a bad idea. And I could see if you were one of my lawn care customers, and I put out, a blast that I'm gonna discount lawn care, and you're already in, so I can build more revenue to generate more customer base. I can see where you're frustrated, but the idea of it is right, and it wasn't, necessarily free, from my understanding, they didn't get a free hookup, they get a help towards it to get more subscribers on it. That's what we need to do. That's the only way we're gonna turn that into an asset for this town, is to get more subscribers onto the wastewater treatment facility. And one of the things that's frustrated me that we didn't do as a town is we got donated some land. It's off of the roller rink road, and they've sold some lots down there. Drove down there just recently. There's a really nice steel building going in. But I would have suggested we invest as a town into putting sewer down that road and town water, and sell off the lots to recover that expense, and then encourage, I don't want to use the word high end, but a bigger business presence. Right now, there's one building down there. It's a couple of Conex boxes with a fruit trusses on it. Not going to have much property value for taxable income. That would have been a good scenario where we could have easily got more subscribers for our wastewater treatment facility, generated income for that, and generated higher tax revenue off business, who puts less of a burden on our tax base. It puts less of a burden on our police department and on our fire departments, and certainly on our school, which absolutely sucks a ton of money out of our budget. It doesn't even impact that.
Any other candidates for state?
Yeah, I want to go back a little bit, if we can, to Bill, kind of what you were bringing up about the loader and some issues and stuff down there. Now, look, being on the budget committee, we went over this, right? And they got hashed around a few different times. And ultimately, the budget committee agreed as far as buying the loader. But there was also another scenario that there's also, a wall and some heaters that want to be put in. And we said, we would agree to the loader and not agree to putting the wall and these heaters going in this current budget. So, but I guess the intriguing point is that with this money coming out of our slush fund, I can tell you, it kind of makes me think that if I was a candidate, that this money is your money. It's our money as residents. This isn't just the selectmen's money. And I'll tell you a frustrating thing is, if you look back at one of the last selectmen's meetings 4 or 5 weeks ago, that it was suggested that this money does not get taken out of the fund balance without a vote going to the voters. And let me tell you, the selectmen turned it down. They said no to the voters, we're doing it anyway. That is wrong, in my opinion. It should be up to us as selectmen to put whatever we need to in a big purchase like that out to the voters. And if we don't, I think it's an injustice. So I wanted to say my piece about that. As far as the casino money, I do think everything we do is going to have a cause and effect, okay? If we bring in roughly $2 million a year, right? Everyone's saying, okay. So we all know right now that the wastewater plant, like Phil said, it's a huge anchor on our side. There's nothing we can do about it. But I can tell you right now, for the next 18 years, we're paying about $850,000 a year. So cause of, the effect of having the casino and the hotels, we have a plant that's a boat anchor, okay? Take the first $850,000 out to pay for our treatment plant, that's why it's here. So we're left with a little over $1 million. Great question. How does it affect us? Where is it going? What's happening? I don't have the answer. I just joined the budget committee this year, but it's a question for the past 10 years, whatever it's been. That's what I've had.
Taxes.
Here's what as a business person, this is what I have a hard time wrapping my head around. This town existed perfectly fine before the casino, hotels, anything happened, right? We had fairly decent taxes. Weren't too bad. Now, all of a sudden, we have this growth. What's going on? How are we existing now? I don't understand it. We're in debt to our eyeballs. And we have these beautiful resources, incredible resources in this town. It makes no sense to me. So again, part of the reason why I'd like to get involved.
Mr. Ward, do you have anything you'd like to add to this?
I would just say, if we do have that undiscretionary fund, let's say when it comes to mill rates on It's taxpayers' money, it's our money. You know, we pay taxes every year, it should go, if we don't have it allocated towards other expenses that we need to buy, it should go right towards our mill rate tax base. Eliminate it. If you can at least get rid of either the school budget, the county budget, or another large expense to the town. It's not taken from us, the casino, we're getting it already from the revenue, so we should be able to use that to lessen our tax burden, is in my opinion. I mean, it's our money, we should be able to use it and benefit the town, lower taxes for all of us. Maybe we are able to go spend more money throughout the community at local businesses or support local charities. I believe that's what that money's there for, on top of doing other capital gains, but it would make sense to me if that money's there when it comes to setting the mill rate and the tax done, put it out and lower the tax rate on the taxpayer costs.
I got that one. Undesignated. It's money that's undesignated. We have money coming in and we don't designate it. Why wouldn't we designate it? Why wouldn't we say, we have this much coming in, we're gonna need a new ladder truck, okay? It's a 5, 8, 7-year plan. Why don't we designate that money? Why don't we designate that money to the heaters that they would like to have in the recycle building? Why don't we designate that? Why don't we designate the money so when the loader comes up, it's not like a surprise, we need a new loader. This one's 20 years old and it's beat up. That's where a business mind comes into play. We have to plan out. We have to sit down and say, what are we gonna purchase over the next year, 5 years, or 10 years? And I don't like the idea of undesignated money. I think it needs to be designated, because all it is really, at that point, is an overpayment. We overpaid, and they're gonna hang on to it just in case.
So just for clarification, there is designated and undesignated funds. Designated funds are monies that come into the town that are designated for a specific purpose. Under the audit, that's the reason they're assigned as designated. We have undesignated funds that come in that we designate for specific purposes, so that does already happen. As far as using undesignated funds to lower the mill rate, that is done every year. The Board of Selectmen every year take a vote to contribute several $100,000 from the undesignated fund balance to lower the mill rate. So that is already done. There are several things here I just haven't commented on that are already being done, that the reason that they're being suggested is because we only know these things, and maybe what we're guilty of is not communicating these things to the public. A lot of the things that both Bernie and Bill are talking about already happen. We use undesignated funds to lower the mill rate every year to the tune of $300,000 and $400,000 every year to lower the taxes. We take casino money, it's the $1 million that's put into the undesignated fund balance that is used for maintenance for the buildings, for the roads, for equipment, for vehicles, for various things. So that's already being done. It's a matter of knowing that these things are happening and not knowing that they're happening. But I can sit here and say very comfortably that the existing Board of Selectmen, we do everything, all 5 of us, to do everything in our power to use the funds we have to lower the mill rate. You still have to keep an undesignated fund balance to the tune of a percentage of at least 90 days of what your operating expenses are in the case that no revenues come in. So a lot of these things are hard to explain to the public because you don't deal in them every day, but there is a very dedicated Board of Selectmen who do watch out for every dollar that's being spent in this town.
Mr. Ward?
No, she answered it.
All right, we
I
have
was
another
just gonna
question.
elaborate on the whole thing with 90 days, but no, that was perfect.
Question in the front row?
They just all answered it.
Okay, lady in the second row.
But first of all, I'd like to thank Sharon Jackson for having the courage to sit up there by herself and take this negative stuff, first of all. She's not the only selectman in town. Many of you do not go to the selectman meeting. If you went to the selectman meeting, you'd be able to see what goes on and ask for, approach the selectmen as a board for some of these issues. That's just my first comment. The second comment is, for all you new selectmen, for me, I would like to know what your ideas are for economic development. The town has tried to have an economic development committee. It's kind of fell apart. I've always been on the fence about what is your role? Aside from selecting and making decisions, I think part of that role, and I'd like your opinion on this, is to be a part of that economic development committee to decide how do we approach these bigger businesses to give Walmart some competition, to give Hannaford some competition, get a Market Basket in here, get a Target in here, work with that. So I'd like your thoughts on what you plan to, what's your first plan when you come into office to service the selectmen to economic development?
I think that it ties in really well with another question in my list, but was, what do you propose continue to grow business investments within the town along those lines? So I understand the economic development committee that didn't go.
You made it sound clearer. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so let's start down that end with Mr. Ward.
It all falls under all the residents, not just the 5 on the board. I think you need to start with asking everybody in Oxford, what do you want? You Market Basket. You get together as a group, if you can get a group. We all work hard and we all have kids and we all have jobs, and it seems like we all don't ever find the time. And I'm guilty. I was busy last Thursday, had a family thing going on. I couldn't make it to the selectmen's meeting. But if we get together as the town, because we're all looking out for the town, and we find out what do you want as a group. If 3 want Market Basket, but 10 want a Target. Okay, let's come up with a program to go after Target and see what they require, because I'm sure they have all kinds of requirements to come into a town. I think the only one that doesn't is Dollar General, because they pop up in the backyard. But I think if we get together, not just 5, but get the town together, put out a flyer, do some kind of meeting where we all discuss it, and then we all get together and find out who we talk to get what we want. Because we all want different things, but if the majority want the same, then you go that route.
So that's a great question, because that's something I've been asking about quite often. And I actually just asked the town manager a week and a half ago, what is the deal with the Economic Development Committee? Because it's listed as a committee, I don't hear anything about it. And he pretty much had told me that basically since chairman had left, that things had dissolved, it's very hard to find committee members. I agree 100%, right? We all have busy lives and so forth. But this goes back to what I was saying about growth, okay? If we're gonna grow, there's things that need to take place. And it's gonna take us residences to get involved. And that means we're gonna need people that have the same goal, that want the town to grow. So we need to get a committee formed, number one, or at least staffed, if you will, right? So, and as far as growth, what do we have here that is gonna make something like, I don't know, Target or whoever, go? Well, look, we all live here for a reason. We can't sit up here and say everything's bad, because not everything's bad. We live here because it's a beautiful town. We have incredible resources just between the casino, we have lakes, we have ponds, we have Route 26. It's a huge asset a lot of towns don't have. I am all in favor of growing Route 26 and keeping along that main strip and leaving the suburbs to us. Okay, that's what I'm for. I do think if we get a development going in, whatever it is besides twin town homes or whatever, with town utilities and town water, sewer and stuff, it's going to help start bringing people like that. And as we start growing and we start being advocates, we need reasons for people to come here. And now small families, when they look at different communities, what do they look at? They look at their rec centers. What is the town doing to fund their rec center? Hey, You know what? I'm all for expanding the rec center. Let's get her some help. She's asked for new help. She's asked for a part-time assistant. Let's give it to her so that she can go and get grants and continue. I don't know if you guys just see, we got a grant for changing stations. Was it down there at Pismo? Came out great. That's just one small example that if we give her time, or whoever it may be at the time, to keep getting grants, allow things to grow, give our kids something to do, give our seniors something to do. And if there's already things, but we can expand on it much more. When we start bringing residents and we bring families to the area and we start growing, companies will notice, guaranteed, because they're after the bottom dollar. But if we're gonna sit here and we're gonna be stagnant and we're not gonna do anything, they're not gonna come. So we need to be our own advocates, and we need to be the ones that take the lead and start developing our area, and they will come. That's my take on it.
Let's jump to Mr. Richardson.
Yeah, I mean, to catch a fish, you have to think like a fish, right? So what do businesses want? What do they want? They want access to sewer. So we need to be sure they have access to sewer. And we have that on 26, most of 26, not all the way up to Walmart, not beyond there, but we have that going on for us. So what else are they looking for? They want a tax break, plain and simple. They want to be profitable. Not a bad word in business. Profit's a good word in business. They should make money. We should want them to make money so that they do year after year after year, that they employ people. So I think building relationships, target these companies, reach out to them, encourage them. It may be a 3-4 year before you get them here, for you to reach out to them and start some dialogue. I've been out of the Marine Corps since 2002, and I'm still recruiting. If I see a young man or woman and I'm like, man, they'd make a great Marine, I tell them that. And I think that's what we're talking about, what Scott's saying, when it's our responsibility too. I have a few people that I know that are thinking about expanding or building, expanding their fertilization company or another garage. I'm encouraging them to come to Oxford and think about Route 26 and the exposure. A friend of mine that has a tent company down there. I remember when he wanted to be over here, he was in Harrison, he wanted to be over here. I encouraged him to come here, to be here, to get on 26. So it's not just the role of the select board or the town manager, it kind of falls on us all. And a committee, I used to be completely against committees. Man, you can't get anything done with a committee. You know what? I was wrong. You do. You need a committee, you need some people working together, and you need some people that are motivated to get this done. And that's one thing I don't like, that's motivation.
Mr. Jackson.
I think committee's the perfect place to start. We already have one with me to find some, I have former heads of box stores, maybe get I wouldn't say a career fair, but maybe get a bunch together, hold a seminar, see what they need to move to our town. We have great amenities. The 26 is a lifeblood, running from Gray all the way up to Arrowhead. Everybody uses 26 for skiing, summertime activities. We have a casino right up the street. If we have the amenities to bring big business in, it's just how do we conform to what they would. At the same time, how do we keep our community the way we have for the last 200 years? We live in a great community, as Ernie said. We all know each other. We all grew up together. We're a community. We're almost like all sorts of family. But it's hard getting that balance between finding what they want us to conform to and what we want them to conform to us. I think a community would be the perfect way to start. As I said, the struggle, I believe, is trying to find stores to invest in separate locations. We're 30 minutes from just about any other big city around us. They don't really want to stack. I'm assuming they wouldn't want to stack the box stores and box stores. But I think it's a great avenue to take advantage of, and I think tax incentives on local business that we already have really grow our local businesses and tax base inside the town, and like the board said, really go, as a community, go out and try to find new business, try to grow the business in the town of Oxford, which is the benefit us all, really, in the long run.
Ms. Jackson.
The town does have an economic development committee. It is active, not in the sense of being active the way it probably should be. It is in charge of the property that the town owns that is off the Roller Rink Road. There are several lots there that were subdivided. We acquired that property from Schiavi that came with specific guidelines that were accepted by the town, by the voters of the town. And just like you, when you sell your property, you're not going to give it away. The property is owned by the town of Oxford, it's owned by its residents. And when the properties are sold, it is, there's a realtor that's involved in the sale of that property. That was the information of accepting that property. The Board of Selectmen has been very active in the past several years in selling those properties. We have been very active in bringing sewer and water there because that's also costly. We also own the property by Twin Town Homes. We own quite a few acres up there. The Board of Selectmen has also been active in looking at subdividing that property. But in the case of looking at the property, you also have to take a look at what does the town need to keep of this property for its own future use. So we also are looking at that. Just because you have land that you own, it doesn't mean that you need to sell it all, because then you need land to build buildings. And in the case of what's at Twin Town Homes, that also has access out on the Ski Hill Road. So those have been active projects that the Board of Selectmen has been working on for the past several years. And we have sold several lots that are off the Ski Hill Road. And I know there's at least 2 lots there that are still for sale, but again, they're listed for certain amounts, and we have had offers. But again, you have to think that in the same sense as if you have land for sale, I don't think you're going to give it away. So we have to take the best offer because we're making decisions for all of this.
Thank you. There's a gentleman with a tan hat, you just raised your hand, yeah. And then, yes, sir.
Thanks. Joe Waxer, just want to thank you all for coming out tonight and fielding questions from the group and such. It's helpful. A problem facing many small towns in Maine, and Oxford is subject to the same issue, is that of being able to staff our first responders and fire department. In the past year, for a number of reasons, the chief filled 58 12-hour shifts without compensation. Had she not done so, that would have left equaling almost a month of empty shifts in the fire department. You heard from the group questions and answers regarding some of the roles of town government, infrastructure, economic development. Another important role in my mind is the safety and well-being of the residents. In order to do so, we need full staffing for the police and fire. So my question for the candidates is individuals is where does alleviating the issue of the current inadequate staffing model of relying on per diem firefighters to cover this kind of fall on realistic priorities? And how would you propose addressing this issue should you be elected to close that gap, which as it stands appears to be unsustainable?
Let's start with Mr. Ward.
I'll jump into the firing squad on that one because I know that's a heated question. I am a believer in the town. You don't mess with 2 things in this town: your police department and your fire department. If you ever need them, you need them there. The police department, I'm kind of 2-step this, because when I was in the police department back in the 90s, we were volunteer. I was volunteer. And then as the town grew, the police department grew, and then everybody started getting paid. The fire department has been volunteer with a handful, and I don't know the exact number, and as we grow and the town grows, we need more. Definitely a situation we need to take care of because we do need to have people readily available when we hit the 911 button and we need them to come. I wouldn't be able to make that decision myself, and I think as a group, we need to make it together, because it's going to affect all of us. When you fully staff a fire department, the one thing we all agree on is trying to keep taxes down. That doesn't happen at that point, because the amount of money required to staff 24/7 is gonna make it go up. And I don't have the exact answer on what we do, but I think if we all work together, not just the 5 who are on the board, because it's not just their decision. Again, it all comes back to what we have been saying. We all have to be involved, because it's our money coming out of our pocket. Yes, it is an issue. Yes, we need a fire department. I don't know how to get there by myself, but as a collective group, I think we can all come to that answer.
And I think the question is, like, for fire departments, you're just relying for diem and you're not necessarily on duty when the call comes in, how are you going to address that? Yeah.
It's per diem and there's insufficient firefighters taking per diem shifts, fill the available shifts.
Mr. Pitts?
So, again, during the budget committee, this was a topic that had come up. There was a couple different options that were proposed. And I guess where I fall on the line is that, look, I sat here, I'm an advocate for growth in this town, right? Well, with growth also comes the need for services. And that's a reality. And that's, again, goes back to a cause and effect. If we're going to want to grow this town, that's an effect. We're going to have more costs going into our emergency services. Now, I don't know a ton about the fire department and the intricacies of the police department and so forth, but you're right. In an emergency, I want either one of them or the paramedics there. So I do believe, based on what I do know and based on the presentation we're giving the budget committee, I do think this town is gonna have to start leaning towards full-time fire department, members. That step, I don't know that we jump into it full force, but I do think we need to consider it, we need to investigate it, and I think we do need to start going in that direction. Yep.
Ms. Jackson?
Staffing fire and rescue full-time has been talked about for several years. It is something you just can't jump into in 1 year and expect to change it in 1 year. My recommendation when we discussed it this past year with budget and approving it was that a committee be formed in the next year where the fire chief sits down on a committee with the town manager and several others to put together a plan to put a plan in place to decide how many full-time staff are needed. Bringing a decision like that to a budget committee and or the selectmen during the budget process all at once with no prior discussions about it is not the way to do it. You have to look at something like that over a period of time and put the plan together and then bring it forward. Now, I, for one, did not approve the budget that the fire department brought forward this year to put in 7 full-time employees this year for the first time. There was no prior discussions and planning for that was presented to us. I did, however, approve a similar budget increase in the town of Bethel and supported it because it was a plan that had been reviewed the past year with the select board and the other committees and put together. You need to put together your plan and then bring it to the departments that are going to approve it and state your reasons why. But yes, this town does need a full-time fire and rescue, but there's a way to do it. And you just can't bring it on the board all at once like that. So next year, after there's been time to study, I think that would be the appropriate time to bring that forward.
Mr. Jackson?
Again, I agree with Mrs. Jackson here. I think there should be a plan in place on the stipulations in which how many firefighters or rescue or first responders are needed. Taxes have been brought up quite a few times in this open forum. It's hard to, offer more amenities at the same time, try to keep taxes low. Did you say that there was, the chief did like a month without getting paid?
58 12-hour shifts without additional compensation.
to cover those uncovered.
That's tough as a new father. I couldn't imagine being away from my daughter that long, or if you have families, or you have to have that breakup between work and home life at the same time. It's, for a small town like we have with volunteer fire department, it's kind of hard to have that separation until we do have a plan, we do have a committee to look at what we can afford as a town. And I'm not opposed to bringing in full-time firefighters as long as the town, the taxpayers approve it. It's our money, it's the taxpayers' opinion, and it's their choice to do what they would like to do with that subject, but I think there should be quite a bit of planning, a few plans brought before the select board, just in case the taxpayers do say, yes, we want full-time firefighters.
Yeah, what would happen if a volunteer firefighter didn't volunteer, right? I've seen that bumper sticker, that's a good question. This is what happens. We're here, right? The volunteers probably aren't volunteering like we need them to. And so, you have 696 hours, thank you to the chief for covering those shifts, and somebody should be compensated for that. There should be money there to be compensated for that. Where would I prioritize that? That's where that's a tough question. It's hard. It's hard to sit here and say, okay, everybody, we're going to go full time to the tune of $250,000. And you know, we have to look at it, and it's not a popular stance, but to look at it and say, if we have 696 hours that weren't covered, what's the risk reward for $250,000? What you're saying to yourself right now, Phil, what's a life worth, right? Like that's what we're talking about. When we get into public safety and fire and police and rescue, what's a life worth? I don't know. Invaluable, right? I guess. But those are hard decisions you have to make. Those are hard decisions that I'm willing to sit in and be part of, to take a look at it from maybe a little different view and try and come up with some creative ideas. I think where is it on my priority list? It's a high priority. It needs to be a high priority.
Thank you. Lady in the back.
Piggybacking to the economic development question, I would like a yes or no answer from all of the candidates. My question is, first I would say that I think the quality of businesses that we bring to the community matters, and whether or not they are good for our town is something to consider. In light of that question, I would like to know where you stand on the idea of a moratorium with grandfathering in the current marijuana shops and solar farms that we have in Oxford. Will you, yes or no, support the idea of stopping right where we're at once we have the grandfathered in and not allowing the moratorium to continue?
Yes.
Okay, so yes or no?
Okay, yes.
Yes, moratorium?
Yes, I want to say more though.
Yes.
And yes, moratorium? Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, there was another gentleman with a great, yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, being on board, I got on the budget committee, I was on for a number of years when the chairman was, got back on this last year, and Ernie brought up something that, I had a list of questions I all asked already, so, but, on the budget committee, we voted against, retaining wall at the transfer station. I understand the next selectmen's meeting was approved, so I guess, as a budget committee member, I guess I don't understand now how it works.
So the question is, how did that vote get shifted?
Reversed, yeah.
Reversed. And it was reversed by the selectmen?
Yes, I understand that.
There were two retaining walls proposed to the transfer station.
This was down with the brush pile, the demo pile.
What was the other one?
So they were both called retaining walls, but you did not support it at the budget committee.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
And then the selectmen supported that.
that's what I understood.
So when budgets are being proposed, you have the select board and the budget committee making their recommendations. They may recommend them for any number of reasons. I don't remember how many voted for and against it. So I really can't answer that question.
Did that answer your question?
I don't, it's not an answer, so.
Go ahead.
I would go with it.
Yes, ma'am.
As a member of the audience, I'd love to jump in and clarify that the votes were to put them on the warrant. So when it goes to the town meeting, that issue is on the warrant, and you'll see the budget committee recommends, and then you'll see the select board recommends. So it'll be the town people that will make the final decision. Their vote was only to put it on the warrant.
And so when's your town meeting?
June 7th.
Everybody done?
I didn't understand your question the way you asked me, but yes, that's
So it was recommendation of.
all it is a recommendation, exactly.
Yes, sir.
I've got property in another town, and we have a lot of elderly people there. And the taxes have gone so high that a lot of people are getting run out because they're on fixed income. They're gonna start with Bill. What are you gonna do to protect the people that are elderly in this town from the town saying, sorry, you can't pay your taxes, you're gonna have to move?
Honestly, I don't know what I can do as far as, other than be part of the solution in ideally, we as a community, and I would like to see it through private funds, come up with a senior living facility. And I know somebody had mentioned it to me, that there was a proposal down at the Robinson's Marina to convert that into maybe some senior living. And this kind of, I thought the economic development question was going in this route too. We talked about having quality businesses. I think a senior living facility would be huge. An affordable senior living facility would be huge for this town. And then you take, with your economic development, now you're talking about ear, nose, and throat services, eye doctors, physical therapy, quality businesses. Again, I'm not a marijuana user or tea, whatever, and I don't have a problem with it. If that's what your cup of tea, that's fine. But it would be nice to have some of these quality businesses, and I don't like the word high end. So that would run right together where using private funds, not giving town money away, not reducing taxes, but incentivizing them, encouraging them, building a relationship with them, and then I think the two would work together to create, generate more income for the town, holding that tax, our tax rate level.
Anyone else on the panel wish to address the issue? I think we have to deal with seniors being taxed out of having to move because they can't afford the tax.
But how are you gonna keep them in their homes?
Can I agree with the elderly, and I want to add one part to it, Bill. The young kids, all the having, my kids, it is a problem. I love where I live. I have to work extra hard to pay my taxes, so it is a problem for all of us. And I would like to see a program set up to assist with that. And I don't know what that program would be, but I agree with you because we all sit there and talk about, holy cow, 20 years ago, I couldn't afford where I live right now. I would have had to sell after the last adjustment because my taxes went up $1,400 a year. We want to grow this town, which we've all been talking about, growth. We've got to be careful with it because we've got to keep the taxes down so we don't have to move. I bought my dad's house so he didn't have to pay taxes for the rest of his life. I took that over to ease that burden because when he had Social Security, it wasn't enough for him to pay all of it. And as we get older, we have more time and we like where we are. We do need to pay attention. There needs to be a plan. I don't know if there is funding out there, but it is definitely a situation we need to look at because it's only going to get worse as things progress.
Anyone else with distraction?
There are tax incentive programs that have been set up through the state. You can get that information from the town clerks. Every state and every town in the state of Maine can qualify for those. I'm aware of several families who are taking advantage where I am of some of the tax incentive programs. The foreclosure laws have have changed in the state of Maine the past few years. At one time, if your property was lien and then went into foreclosure, it could be sold to anyone, and the town kept all the money. It doesn't work that way anymore. The new law on the books, I'm not going to go through all the specifics, but if property forecloses, the owners of the property, they have a right to buy it back. They would get over and above what is actually owed on it, but those programs are in place to assist people so that they don't actually lose their properties. So there are state incentive programs to assist people with properties that they're having a hard time to pay their taxes on.
But that means the property would be sold, and they'd have to get a grant through the state to buy it back.
No, there are tax incentive programs before properties are foreclosed that people can get into to help them pay their taxes before they foreclose. And if your property actually forecloses, the town, property forecloses automatically once it is matured. So you can't stop that foreclosure. But then there are state laws in effect that allow the property owner over time to be able to buy their property back. So there are programs out there. If someone has problems like that, they can just go to the town and ask about the programs.
The town couldn't help anybody with the slush fund, say,
You can't pay someone's property taxes, and the town doesn't have a slush fund. I'll be very clear on that.
so basically it comes right back to the other town I said, can't pay taxes, get out.
No, I don't think that's the way to look at it either. There's no slush fund. If someone has a hard time paying their taxes, they can go and talk to the town. Property agreements can be made, installment plans, so that they can pay their taxes that they owe over time. I've set up many payment plans like that for people that they can make payments over time, even after their properties have foreclosed.
What question, yes, sir, in the back?
First of all, I want to thank the candidates for taking the time and letting us know your views of what you think the future of the town is and some of the problems we're facing. Thank you for moderating the meeting as well. I think that some very good ideas have come out, but I think that we have missed the output of the room. And that output of the room is that the board of selectmen, budget committee, did a very good job, as far as I'm concerned, in looking at our needs and not necessarily the wants that this town is looking at. The budget committee has the responsibility of making recommendations to the town people and the board of selectmen have the same responsibility. So that when we get that opportunity on June 7th to determine which one is the wisest of the two. Then we get an opportunity on June 10th to figure out what we're gonna do with the school budget. They've got an 8.8% increase in the budget, that's a reduction in the number of students, and a consolidation of two schools. I would recommend them, it's not a question, I hope you agree with this, but I hope everyone here will show up on the 10th. And make it known that we're sacrificing our roads and our infrastructure just to pay the increase in the school budget. And I think it's time that the school board begin to realize that it's not a want situation, it's a need situation. Thank you.
Any other questions? We'll have one final one for final statements and one, yes, ma'am.
So, if you guys voted on, and Chair will make a election to the
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, and I am a member.
Yes, I would.
Because they always say that they never have any selection for showing up for the meeting. So, we got this
So, for a final wrap-up question, and you can add if you're participating, but you describe what unique qualities you have to take a position as a selectman for this town. Unique qualities that you have that you're going to bring to the board. If there is any.
Yeah, I mean, you got a fresh set of eyes. Put some energy, you got motivation. I'm a leader. Started a business right here in town 16 years ago. We've grown it. I think outside the box. I know how to improvise. I know how to sacrifice. I know how to go without. And I know how to work with other people. I'm not afraid to work with other people. I've worked with many of you. I've signed several of the selectmen's papers to run nomination papers, to be nominated and to serve and have served and still serve on the board. So I'm here for you. I'm here because I am you. I'm just one of you that says, you know what, it's time. My youngest daughter's graduating. I have some time freed up. Instead of sitting out there and saying, I wonder how this happens, I'm going to take my chance, sit here, and serve you.
Mr. Jackson.
I got a fresh set of eyes, young person from Oxford, looking to the further success of the town of Oxford. It's honestly been a pleasure to live in this town. There's a lot of opportunities, a lot of great people. I'd just like to serve them and further the town of Oxford down the road with economics. I would hate to see an old person be kicked out of their home or an elderly couple on a fixed income because they couldn't pay their taxes. That's terrible. They've worked their lives for it. I want to see young people move to Oxford or be able to afford to live in Oxford, along with everybody that lives in Oxford. It's a great community. It's honestly a blessing that we all are able to have forums like this and get to know each other and have the ability to have great candidates to run towards the furtherment of the town that we choose to live in.
I would like the ability to continue working for the town of Oxford with the Board of Selectmen. We work very well together. It doesn't matter who the select board members are. Since I've been on there, we all work very well together. We may not always agree, but we always work well together. I will continue to listen to anyone who calls me. I take text messages, emails, phone calls, and I always take the time to listen when anybody calls. I am an advocate for watching out for my neighborhood and always have been, because where I live, there's a lot of activity on the corner of King and Pismo Beach Road, beach right there. I totally enjoy doing what I'm doing. I may not vote the way every single one of you want, but I work for all the constituents in Oxford, and we may all have difference of opinion, and I can't vote the way you all want. But when I take a vote, I have to make the vote based on what I feel is in the best interest of everyone, even though you may all have a different opinion.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, what everyone said is true, right? And if we don't think of what people have said already, then I think we're out of touch. But some of the things that, I've thought about as far as this is that I'm going to fight for what's right. I have nothing to lose here. I don't know anything. I certainly lack knowledge compared to what you do being in a municipality. I mean, you got a wealth of knowledge and great. So I know there's a learning curve, but I'm not afraid to learn. I'm not afraid to step out of my comfort zone and ask questions if I don't understand them. And I am going to understand something and have a reasoning behind it before I just throw my hand up and say yes or no, right? And again, we may not always agree, and we probably will disagree, but that's okay. You're still my brother, you're still my sister, we're still in this community together. There's no hardship if we agree or disagree on a subject or an item. It's okay. And I think that that's one good quality that I have is that I will shake your hand, I will help you out, I'll help your neighbor out, anyone else, whether we agree or not. That's how I am. Another quality is I think I'm business minded, and being business minded, you problem solve. When issues come up, you ask, you do your research, you do what you can to kind of come up with the best solution that tries to appease as many people as possible. You do what's right. And at the end of the day, you do what's right in your heart, knowing that your motivation is that you're doing it right and doing it to the best of your ability. And that's all you can do, right? I like to problem solve. I like managing money. It's kind of weird sometimes. Some people think I'm sick over it. My budget tendencies is I like to know what money's going towards. And I think that's a quality that I can bring to the town as one of the 5 selectmen is understanding the budget. Like I said, it's exactly why I joined the budget committee. I find it interesting. I want to know where our tax dollars are going. So in people and relationships, sorry, but I like to talk. Okay? I like to get to know people. I like to know where people stand. I like to know what's going on. I like to know, why you don't have a chance to bid on the aluminum. I don't know, but I'd like to find out. There's people that have contacted me and said, hey, I've asked the town 3 years to replace a culvert in my driveway. It keeps washing out. I've spent $5,000. Why is it not being fixed? I don't know. That's the first I've heard of it. But I'd like to find out why it's not being fixed. And maybe there's a good reason, right? I don't know. But these are things, when people bring issues to me, I just want to do some research. And again, we may agree to disagree, but I want to find out what the problem is and why it's not being fixed. And there could be a good reason for it, right? So I like relationships. I like trying to problem solve and spend money wisely. That's what I like. And talk. Thank you.
A lot like Ernie, being a salesman forever and a small business owner for the last 32 years. I love to talk as well, but the one thing I enjoy more than talking is listening. I'm the oddball salesman of the group because I tell you what I got, and then it's up to you to decide what you want. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I leave it in your hands. I just want the town to grow properly because we as people are going to come and go, and I want to make sure that this town is here for our kids and their kids and their kids. My grandparents lived here, came here, brought me up to see the way this town is, and my grandfather always said, leave 26 alone, it will take care of itself, worry about the outskirts. And he started feeding me coffee at 6, and maybe that's why I'm always jittery now at 52, but it's true. And I want to help the town grow and stay here and be what it has become and become even more.
Thank you. I'm going to guess that these folks will stick around if anybody has any individual questions for them, but thank you very much.
I'd also like to share for anybody, if you have any further questions for them, their email contacts are on the town website under town government elections, and you can find the links for their contact right there.
Come around.